All right, Violet, any initial instructions for folks? All right, seeing none, I will just remind everyone that you are here at the monthly board meeting of the Big Sky Passenger Rail Authority. I'd like to call the meeting to order. And let us begin with a roll call of the board members. Violet?
Yes, sorry about that, Dave. I was having some technical issues there. Maybe I'll start with my reminder and then just go straight into the roll call since I got cut out for a sec.
Yes, please.
Thanks everybody for joining. Just a reminder for everybody calling in today, please keep your mics muted and your cameras off until you are ready to speak. We ask, or the board members are encouraged to keep their cameras on throughout the meeting, but don't have to. When it comes time for public comment, when Dave asks for public comment, you can use the raise hand function if you're using Teams to join today. Looks like a little guy waving his hand. And if you're calling in on the phone, which I see we have a couple, we'll ask that you press *6 to unmute and let us know that you want to give comment, and then we will call on you to do so. The last thing we ask is that you please refrain from any back and forth conversations in the chat. You're welcome to use the chat to ask questions, but just try to avoid side conversations in there. All right, with all of that said, I will go ahead and do the attendance. If I call out your name, please unmute yourself and let us know that you're here. We will start with Daryl Folkboard from Broadwater County.
Hi, present.
Thanks, Daryl. And then Sean Fredrickson from Butte-Silverbow County.
Sean couldn't make it today, I believe, Violet.
Okay, perfect, no problem. And then Jason Stewart in Dawson County.
I'm here.
Perfect. How about Scott McFarland in Gallatin County? No Scott yet, no problem. Our new board member, Elena Gagliano from Granite County.
Yes, I'm here.
Awesome. And then Mayor Mary Hensley from Jefferson County.
Present.
Perfect. Dave Strohmeyer is here. Bill Berg, Park County.
Here.
Awesome. Terry Jennings, Powell County.
Present.
Perfect. Deanna Bachman from Prairie County. Sweet. Deanna, I see you're on there. I didn't hear you, but I'm going to mark you as present. Jerry McDonald from Sanders County.
Here.
Awesome. And then Ed Anderson from Webo County. Okay, perfect. And there's the roll.
All right, thanks, Violet. Is there anyone who we missed? And one more chance for Scott McFarland. Are you out there? Okay, maybe Scott will join us later. Well, thanks everyone. This is exciting. This is, I believe, the 4th meeting of the Board of Directors for the Rail Authority, and we are off to a great start. Thank you, and a big shout out to all of you who've been actively participating in our committee meetings and subcommittees. And also a shout out to Violet and Kyla, who are both administrative assistants with Missoula County. They have been just doing a yeoman's job of wrangling schedules and helping in the background pull these meetings together. So thank you both. Elena, as Violet mentioned, Elena Gagliano is the new rep for Granite County. She is replacing Bill Slaughter, who resigned recently. And as we did when we first kicked off the authority a couple of months ago, I want to give Elena the opportunity to introduce herself and say a few words if you would like. Elena?
Okay, good morning. I want to thank you all first for having me come on. I'm a resident of Granite County, I've been here since, about 1999. Moved from Missoula. And I'd like to get involved with politics and also local government. And I was interested in this the first time I saw it. And I think I spoke to you, Dave, when Mr. Slaughter, I found out, sort of like self-appointed himself. And then he resigned. And so then the commissioners chose me, which I was happy about. And so here I am. I think passenger rail is a great thing coming from New York. As you can tell, most of us didn't even have a car in New York City. The train was the way of life with us. There wasn't any place you couldn't go. And it was applicable to the majority of people there. So I want to see it in Granite County in southern Montana. So that's about it.
All right. Thanks, Elena. Great to have you on. Just a couple other quick items before we dive into the agenda, and we've got a number of things that we need to blast through today in the next hour. First off, I actually have a presentation that I'm delivering regarding the Big Sky Passenger Rail Authority to a local Rotary Club at 12:30 sharp. So if for some reason we start to bump up against 12:30, I'm going to pass the reins over to Vice Chair Jason Stewart, and he will bring us home, so to speak, wrapping up the meeting. Also, are there any representatives of members of our congressional delegation, either Representative Rosendale or Senators Tester or Daines on the line? I'd love to have you introduce yourselves if you are here.
Zach Ringsack from Senator Tester's office in Butte is on.
Welcome, Zach.
This is Kate Overstreet from Congressman Rosendale's office here in Billings. Pleasure to have you guys.
Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. Very good. Well, delighted to have you with us today. So in the tradition of Montana state law, we also give folks the opportunity to comment on any items that are not on the agenda for today's meeting. And if there's anything specific on the agenda that you see that you would like to comment on, and here I'm primarily talking about non-board members out there, we will give you the opportunity when we take up that specific item to comment. So any public comment on items not on today's agenda and within the purview of the Rail Authority? All right, seeing none. We have minutes to approve from February 5th, 2021. Are there any corrections or additions or modifications for those minutes? Okay, seeing none and without objection, we will consider those minutes approved. Moving on swiftly into committee reports. This is the opportunity for all of you who have been diligently partaking in committee meetings, and I'm going to make a bit of a suggestion for this group, and without violent objection, maybe we will just consider this to be the case going forward. We originally started calling these subcommittees, and some of us realized that that might make sense if the overarching body is a committee itself, but we are not. We are the Rail Authority, so every subdivision of us would probably actually be a committee rather than a subcommittee. So without objection, we'll probably start referring to our subcommittees as committees. Small point of order there. But anyway, this is the opportunity for the chairpersons of the various committees to give us a report of what you've been up to. In a couple cases, we do have action items for the full board to take into consideration today. But let us kick off with rules of procedure. And as it turns out, as I mentioned earlier, Commissioner Sean Frederickson, who is the chairperson of the Rules of Procedure Committee, is unable to join us today. So I'll just jump in and say this is a work in progress. We are hoping, if all things go smoothly, to perhaps be able to bring before the full board a draft set of rules of procedure, AKA bylaws, at our next meeting in April. But there's still a good bit of work to do. We've been examining bylaws, rules of procedure of other boards, rail authorities, rail commissions across the country, and have been cherry picking the best of those, and have been trying to avoid any pitfalls that we've seen in some of those rules of procedure. It's not the sexiest work that one might consider in a committee, but it's important work that will lay the groundwork, I think, and a solid foundation for the authority going forward. And that's really all I have to share on that. Any questions from board members on the rules of procedure? And I should also add that all of these are public meetings and open to board members or members of the public. All of our meeting agendas and meeting materials are posted on our Rail Authority website. Again, for folks who have not accessed that, that website is www.bigskyrail.org. And let's hold the strategic planning discussion. That's chaired by our commissioner out of Gallatin County, Scott McFarland. And unless, Scott, have you arrived yet?
Dave,
David,
Scott,
go ahead, Bill.
yeah, I was just going to say, Scott sent us an email before the meeting to say his attendance was unlikely.
Okay.
But, so we could wait and see if he emerges, or we could watch Dan Clark improvise.
Well, tell you what, let's watch Dan Clark improvise, and if Scott does appear and has anything else to fill in the gaps with, he can do so later. So, Dan, do you want to inform the group how it's been going with the Strategic Planning Committee?
Thank you, Dave. I appreciate that opportunity.
I bet you do.
So the committee has been meeting, and we've been laboring over a survey, the creation of a survey that could be used as an aid for the group as you contemplate your purpose and a vision for the near future, and some of the strengths and capacities that exist within the board as you know it at this point in time, and in a way identify the potential building blocks for a larger, stronger, more competent organization. And so that's the intent of a strategic planning process, is to provide guidance moving forward for the organization. So this is what we've deemed as phase one. There's going to be one survey that's going to elicit questions around vision, organizational values, what's the purpose of the organization. We've got some good examples for people to look at and then see and think about what would be the context for our organization. So that's what's been labored over. It is a somewhat lengthy. There was some length to it, and there was some debate, whether we should try to shorten it. But it was a consensus of the group that they felt the questions that were being asked, each one of them on their own, was an important question to ask. It just happens to be there's a lot of important questions that we're looking for the input and response from the board members. So it seems the committee is ready to move forward with the survey, and so we're just looking for timing from the overall group. When would you like us to initiate this? And so that we can establish a timeline and get the survey out in the hands of the board members for their response. There's also some discussion about creating a shorter version of a survey for those that are interested in supporting the rail authority and get their input to inform the overall board as they're moving forward with creating goals and strategies that will be determined in phase two of the strategic planning process.
So, Dan, and anyone else who's been a part of the strategic planning committee, are you looking for some level of direction from the board here today? Or I guess I would also punt it back to the group as far as would something be ready by our April meeting to present, or I'm assuming there's some work that we need to do between meetings. Once you hit the send button on the survey, we're going to have to fill it out, and then it's going to have to be sifted through and compiled in some fashion. Is that correct, Dan?
Yeah, yes. And so it will take a bit of, we'll want to have this survey open for a time to allow the board members to go through and think and contemplate and respond to it. Once it's opened, if you close that out, you've finished the survey. So you'll need to either sit at one point or just keep it open on your computer and hope it doesn't reboot on its own. That happens apparently. But if you'd like to initiate this process now, we can get this. The strategic planning committee can create a timeline if you're ready to roll with it. We just want to be thoughtful of the overall workload of the board, and is this the right time to initiate it during this period between this board meeting and the next? Would it make sense to wait another month? So we just want to look at the whole picture of all the demands on the board's time and make sure that we're doing it in an appropriate timeline.
Thanks, Dan. And just so everyone knows, would you mind introducing yourself, Dan, to the group?
Yeah, I'm recently returned from an astronaut going to the moon. It was a fantastic trip. I'll have a slideshow prepared next time. Now, my name's Dan Clark, and I'm the director of the Local Government Center. And we work with local governments across the state, helping build their capacity and provide training, research, and technical assistance. So I've been invited to support this effort of the Rail Authority to get kind of organized and get themselves lined out. And so that's my role is supporting this effort, and have been serving on both the strategic planning committee and the rules of procedure committee, trying to bring whatever I can to help with that effort. So that's my role in this process.
Great. All right. Thanks, Dan. All right. I'll open it up to the board. Any suggestions? Are we ready to pull the trigger on starting the process of filling out the survey? Any thoughts from the group? And I guess I would be of the mind, no time like the present to start to solidify our vision. Mr. Jennings.
Thank you, Commissioner. I would like to point out that a lot of what we're going to uncover here, what we're developing through this survey, is going to affect the other committees as well. A lot of their work and a lot of their thought and time that has been put into it thus far is going to come out in this. So I would encourage this board to go ahead and make the decision for us to move forward as sooner than later. Thank you.
Thank you, Terry. Any other comments from the board?
Yeah, this is Bill. I would think sooner rather than later as well. Some of what we hope to come out of this will be instrumental in some of the other work to come.
Does anyone think it's a bad idea to get this survey distributed sooner rather than later? Okay, seeing none. Any public comment on strategic planning? Well, I would say that there is support to go ahead and launch the survey and get this moving, because certainly if there's going to be input that would be relevant and germane to the other committees, we'd want that in the mix while we're still in discussion. Okay, so strategic planning committee, go forth and launch the survey, please. Our next committee report comes to us from Communications and Public Relations. Jason Stewart.
All right. Well, I'll just go through a couple things real quick, and then we actually have an action item for the board today, if we can get there. So a couple of quick things. Dave's already noted the website a couple of times, bigskyrail.org. It is up, it is running. We're still working on content and design and photo collections for that. And a big part of that is we're waiting on our board to settle on a brand for all our communications material, including our website, which we're going to get to here in a second. Through our website, we do have an email address now available for the public to email the board. That email address is simply hello@bigskyrail.org. Still working on establishing social media sites, but now that we've got that email address established, the folks are working on that so they can start moving ahead with getting those social media sites set up. Also, though, we do need branding there as well. When it comes to social media, not a decision for today, but going forward, we do need the board members to be thinking about any of you who would be willing to volunteer going forward to help maintain and manage those social media sites once they're up and running. So just be thinking about if that's something you'd be willing to help take on, if you have a specific affinity for Facebook or Twitter or Instagram or one of them, and would like to help with that going forward so that the Missoula County IT staff aren't constantly having to end up doing it. One other last thing before I get to the big point, we'd like to have our board members get an official photo to us. You can send that either to myself or Dave, I suppose, to start with, and then we'll get it to Linda at Missoula County IT Department to get it posted on the website on our board member page. So we'd like to have a photo of every board member and just a brief description of who you represent, whether you're a county commissioner or a city mayor or a private citizen who owns a business or what have you. Just not a full bio or anything, just a brief description of who you are and who you represent on the Big Sky Passenger Rail Authority. So if you could start getting those photos to us, that we'd appreciate that, so we can get those up on our website. And finally, the big thing that happened at our committee meeting, our communications committee meeting, is that Aaron Riccio has come to put together some options for a brand for the Big Sky Passenger Rail Authority. He presented a total of 8 to us in his presentation to us in our committee meeting. In the course of that, with our committee, we narrowed it down to 5 that were kind of the top choices amongst those 8. And we really need to settle on what that brand is going to be so we can start finishing up our website and getting our social media sites settled, and also for all the correspondence that we're going to be sending, whether it's on official letterhead or printing brochures or fact sheets or whatnot. Anything that we print or send out digitally will need to have a brand on it. So that's an important thing we need to get done here. And so I am now going to turn it over. I know Violet Plummer there is going to be showing the slides, and Aaron Riccio, who developed these brands, is on the line. So Aaron, I'm going to turn it over to you and Violet and let you guys go through this real quick and show us our 5 options that the Communications Committee narrowed down for brand choices. And then at the end of this presentation, we would ask the board to consider making a motion on choosing one of these brands to be our brand moving forward, so we can get this settled and start getting our communications all in order. All right, with that, I'll turn it over to Aaron.
Thank you very much. Hello to everyone. Next slide, please. I'll try and make this quick so we can get through it. Yeah, so I'm basically just going to show you a brand mark paired with a visual that kind of explains everything, and a sort of byline next to that. And at the end of this, when a mark is chosen, we'll then lock it up with the name and typography and move into colors and keep on going. Next slide, please. So the first direction basically is rails and bridges crossing the vast landscapes of forests and valleys that make up this state. This is showing, all of these marks will show some level of motion, because obviously we're in transportation and that's what we want to evoke at the end of it. In this case, the inspiration is taken from those very rails and bridge structures that crisscross the state. and go in various directions to make up one unified body. Direction 2, next slide. This one evokes, or sorry, I'll just read this. Tracks towards the future horizon emerge out of a tunnel that draws inspiration from locomotives of the past. This one, to me, starts with the basic locomotive of the past, the steam engine coming towards you, but at the same time, you get the elements of a tunnel, the horizon, the sun, and a mountain, all in one stamp of a mark. So this one has, I feel like, a lot of legs to it. Next slide, please. Pretty self-explanatory, I'd say, in this one, as we have our rails that come together, merging into one basic mountain, trees, landscape, unifying stamp of approval, basically. The landscape of mountains and vast skies symbolically join from different directions to create a navigational star. This is how we have our various, again, rail lines across the state right now, and how they kind of make up the makeup. Sorry, sorry about that. They kind of make up this patchwork landscape, but they always come together and making their way through the mountains, and that kind of North Star that represents big sky, the sky piece of this all. And last but not least, I was going for more of a monogram, obviously a B with some S's mixed into it, but it is, again, showing the tracks weaving across the farmlands, mountains, and forests of our state. And that was my World Run presentation. And if the next slide will show them all displayed on one.
Great.
Thank you, Aaron.
No problem.
Yeah, thanks so much, Aaron. This is fantastic. And for everyone in attendance today, you are witnessing the sausage being made as we speak. So not only is the Big Sky Passenger Rail Authority historic in nature as being the first passenger rail authority in the state of Montana, but also you are witnessing us taking all these initial and preliminary steps to solidify the branding and the operation of the authority. So we have before us 5 options today to begin with. And why don't you just leave those up on the screen there, Violet, so folks can remember. And let's just open it up to the board for any discussion or comments. And then depending on the preference of the board, we can either entertain a motion to select one of these branding options or run through the roll call and folks can vote in that manner. So discussion. And go ahead and raise your hand if you want, and I will call on you. Yes, let's see. Elena.
Thank you. I attended the committee meeting, and I'll probably say the same things I said at that meeting. Number 3 reminds me of the emblem on military uniforms. And 4, that reminds me of the symbols we used to have during the 50s that may date me, for alerts and shelter in place or whatever. So I kind of gotten used to number 2. I really like that. It looks like a train, it looks like a tunnel, and the sun and mountains. So I'm kind of going with number 2.
Thanks, Elena. And we definitely don't want the connotation of sheltering in place with the rail authority. But yeah, thanks, Elena. Anyone else?
Well, I'll just add real quick that I at our communications meeting, I also thought that I really liked number 2. I would also add to the rest of the board that these aren't totally finalized because Aaron will add color and some other features to these when they're completed. So we're basically just choosing the basic form of the brand. The final form will look a little bit different once he's added color and everything to it. But I agree. I do like number 2. I like the vision of this train coming towards you with the mountains and the sun and everything. I think it really kind of it speaks to both a train and to Montana, I think, in a big way. And I really like, I personally, if we're going to choose a day or down the line, I would vote number 2.
Thanks, Jason. Looks like we have a Charles with his hand up. And you're muted, Charles. Still muted. While Charles is unmuted. Oh, there we go.
Okay, sorry about that. I'm Charles in Richville, Washington, and I like number 2 also, but maybe for a little different reason. For many years, this has been talked about, restoring rail service. And for me, light at the end of the tunnel, it's finally happening. That's what it kind of reminds me of. And I like number 2 very much.
Thanks, Charles. Well, we always welcome votes of support from Ritzville. So thanks for joining us. And I cannot help but mention myself also that as we're thinking about emerging from this pandemic and economic recovery, I would claim that part of that means that the light at the end of the tunnel might very well be a passenger train. So thanks, Charles. Paul Pacini.
Thank you, David. I'd like to, this is open to non-board members, right?
Yep, it's open for public comment.
Okay,
So.
I'm not a board member, but I'm very interested. I would like to give a little attention to the number 1. I like, and by the way, number 2 was my second choice, so I'm not too far off. But number 1 I really like because of its simplicity. It's really simple. You could interpret the lines as either mountains or trees or rails or both or all 3. And what's very interesting is number 1 is the same symbol whether you look at it right side up or upside down, which I think is kind of snazzy. So I would vote for number 1. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Others from the board? Terry.
Yeah, Commissioner, there's one concern I have that was stated is that these are going to be, there's going to be color and some additional detail added to these. And that seems to me that that could change significantly the whole concept of the outlook, the outlay of any one of these 5. And I'm just wondering if, you know, if we're being premature picking one here. So I just want to throw that out there. Thank you.
Thanks. And maybe Aaron, could you speak to that?
Yeah. By detail, actually, it's not these marks themselves. There's no plan to change them. The detail be adding color and the color palette for the brand, and bringing typography. So whatever the Big Sky name or BSPRA or that lockup and how that will look. That is the additional detail.
Thanks, Aaron. Mary? Mayor Hensley?
Yes, I would also go with number 2. That's my favorite. And number 5 would be my runner-up.
Okay, thanks. And at any point, if anyone would want to entertain a motion, we could do it that way, or we could certainly just run through the list of the roll call and see what folks' preferences are, and the top vote getter would be the one. Mr. McDonald.
Thanks, Commissioner. I just have a question to Aaron or maybe others. Have we researched? Well, let me point out one thing. Number 1 and number 3 look a little bit like International Paper's logo, I think, if that's the right one. And so that spurred a question: have we done any research on trademark or brand infringement yet? And if we haven't, that's okay. Just wanted to know what the cost associated with both research and registration brand for trademark, whatever it is, might be. Just a approximation.
Aaron, could you address that?
We have not done, that would be something, yes, that would be the best approach once something is selected, or if there's two finals or a favorite and a runner-up. I 100% am aware of the international paper symbol, and I see what you're saying. It is not the same and is not too close, but paper images are definitely ones I was aware of to not overlap when doing this exploratory. So thanks for pointing that out, though.
Any idea what that cost would be associated with research and registration?
I do not know offhand.
Okay, all right, thanks.
Kyla?
There was a question and a couple questions about adding representation of tracks to the tunnel to the design for further clarification.
Okay. Thanks. Mayor Hensley, do you still have your hand up, or was that from previously?
That's from previous.
Okay, no problem. All right. So what's the preference of the board? A motion would certainly be in order, or we could take a different tack.
Mr. Chair, I would move that we embrace number 2.
I second that.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch who seconded it.
Mayor Mary.
Okay, thanks, Mary. We have a motion and a second. Further discussion on the motion.
Can we restate the motion? I didn't catch that.
The motion is to adopt number 2 as the brand. Any public comment on the motion? Okay, let's move forward with a vote. If folks could unmute themselves, members of the board, that is, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. Well, very good. Well, that is a major accomplishment. Aaron, go forth and enter into the next steps with number 2.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you. Anything else, Jason, as far as communications before we move on?
No, that was it. That was the last thing for our communications report. And
okay,
thanks everybody. That is a big achievement that will help us start moving forward with our communications, getting that settled.
Yeah, thank you everyone, and thanks Aaron for doing the great work and heavy lifting on that.
Dave?
Yes.
This is Diane from Mineral County, and I have a question. I'm not sure if it goes under this, and I'm sorry I couldn't figure out how to raise my hand here.
That's okay.
But do we have a mission statement yet?
I believe that is,
I should say.
well, only insofar as we have an initial, I guess, outline of such a thing. If you were to look at the resolution that established the rail authority, there are a number of statements there in terms of what it is that we are about. I suspect that coming out of the survey and the strategic planning work that committee is engaged in, that we will have a more refined mission and vision as part of that process.
Okay, thank you.
You bet. Mr. McDonald, Chair of our Finance Committee, would you like to provide a report?
Yeah, thanks. Thank you very much, Mr. Strohmeyer. I'll just advise that Finance Committee completed its task of developing the fundraising guidelines and submitted to the Rules and Procedures Committee for full digestion before presentation to the full board for adoption. And now the Finance Committee will take up the FY22 fiscal year 22 budgeting effort for the authority. And our budget submission is due to Montana Department of Revenue in June, just like any county. And to prepare for the budget submission and kind of be fully conscious of member county fiscal constraints, we're bringing forward to this committee, to the full board now, a proposal simply a proposal for a formula of member county voluntary contribution, and I stress that voluntary, for fiscal year FY22. So what we've done is we've expedited a portion of the fundraising guidelines to develop this formula, and I'll go ahead and present it now so that others can, so that the public can see that. I think I have this. You have that? Everybody have a picture of that? Want to give me a feedback?
Yep.
Okay, we're good to
Thanks,
go.
Larry.
All right, great. So if you look at this formula, we have it simply states this, that for every $1,000 that might be budgeted in FY22 admin's budget, that's that little yellow square mid-table. For every 1,000 in yellow, the voluntary contribution from each member county might be what is in yellow in the right-hand column. And the way we arrived at that was this: we wanted to make certain that that there was some buy-in from each county. So it was agreed among the finance committee that a 10% equal share of any admin budget should be split equally among member counties. That way, both counties, both large and small, have a small contribution, 10% of that budget. We then said, and that's in green on the very, on that table. The orangish there in the center column represents, the percent of that administration budget that might be shared according to the means of the county, of the member county, based on its assessed valuation, or the taxable valuation taken from the Montana Department of Revenue. And our source document, our source information is in the lower left-hand corner. And then as the last column there in sort of a purple color or violet color, is that 50% of that admin budget should be assigned to member county as a voluntary contribution by virtue of the county's population, because this is passenger rail. So resolving all of that, we have effectively, say, a very small county like Prairie, for every $1,000 that we may have in an admin budget, and I can't give you a very clean example of what that admin budget is at this time, but we'll gain better perspective over the coming weeks. But a small cut for every $1,000 that might be that admin budget in the authority, Prairie would contribute on a voluntary basis, say $9.90. So it's not likely that Prairie County is going to be upset too deeply financially by a contribution, voluntary contribution, to kind of help the whole authority move forward. It gives them an opportunity to feel bought in. And larger counties such as Missoula, for every $1,000 that we would budget in admin, would be more spending with about $235. So you can see it's spread pretty evenly. It has a fairly benign financial footprint in the form of a voluntary contribution to any one county. And of course, this is only a proposal. It's open for adjustment. And this is, focused at the constraints that we are incurring right now, and that we will incur as a unit of government, still tasked with the substantial business of carrying forward in with respective expenses. Good example might be insurance. Another good example would be legal. Another third example would, of course, be any type of effort to, out of an IT staff. We heard about that today. Missoula has been participating with in-kind investments of man hours that have totaled pretty close to $20,000 in the this year, since the formation of the authority. And it's and of course, any voluntary contribution of in-kind effort out of counties that have the staff to do that would be would be equal to a cash contribution, obviously. So I hope I've explained that well, and I'm open to take any questions.
Thanks, Jerry. And just as a reminder for everyone, we're at 12:15 now and want to be respectful of folks' time. It's possible we could run a little bit long. We'll try not to. And also, if you're looking at this table, you will see both Carbon and Lewis and Clark counties on here. Is somewhat presumptuous on our part, maybe, but not entirely unwarranted, since Carbon County has adopted a resolution to petition joining the authority, and it looks like there will be a public hearing next week in Lewis and Clark County to do the same. But let's open it up to questions from the board of directors. So any questions from directors? Elena.
Thank you. I'm not really into financing, but Granite County, just going to my county, does that mean $15.38? That's it?
Jerry?
Yeah, for every $1,000 that we come up with as far as administration budget. So if we had an administration budget of, say, $1,000, yes, it would be $15. 10 times that, $10,000 would be $150, and so on and so forth.
So at this point, we really don't know what the admin budget would be approximately.
Yeah,
Okay.
we don't. We've got some wild guesses. Wouldn't really be responsible to present that here.
Okay, thank you.
And again, since the authority is not a pay-to-play entity, and statutorily the only responsibility of counties is to either originally adopt a joint resolution to establish the authority, or later on to petition to join the authority and then to appoint a board member. There's no requirement. This would be voluntary, but it's a methodology to try to apportion equitably administrative costs. Additional questions from the board? Is there any public comment? So, we do have a hand up. Paul Pacini.
Yeah, I was just wondering on the 40%, the middle balloon there, 40% of administrative budget shared according to the means of the member county. I assume that means a county with a larger budget is going to be paying more, and a county with smaller budget pays less. Is that basically what it means?
Roughly, we're actually basing that number on the taxable value, that is the taxable value of the property within that county. So budget doesn't necessarily, of a county doesn't necessarily reflect its taxable value. But if you needed a budget as a guidepost, I think you could probably safely say it should be they should be similar, or they should be proportional. They should be proportionally equal.
Thank you, Jerry.
You're welcome.
So, Jerry, are you looking for adoption of a motion today that would adopt this methodology?
Yes, we are.
And it would certainly be in order if you wanted to make that motion, and then we could have more discussion.
Excellent. Yeah, so moved. Would you like me to state a full motion?
Sure, that would be
good. Make a motion to adopt as presented a proportional of sharing per the formula that has developed by the Finance Committee and embedded into the Finance Committee funding guidelines. Does that sound like a decent motion?
I think that will work.
Okay.
Thank you, Jerry. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
And I'm sorry, who is that?
That was me, Jason.
Oh, okay. Sorry, Jason.
Okay.
Is there further discussion from the board on the motion? And again, this is a methodology to apportion costs equitably and is voluntary in nature as far as the actual payment from any county. Any public comment? Okay, let's go ahead and vote. If folks would like to unmute their microphones, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, the motion passes. So, thank you, Jerry. Thanks for all the work of the Finance Committee. It's good work.
We've got a good team.
So unfinished business, this is probably the last item that I'm going to have time to take up, and then I'm going to pass the reins to Jason Stewart. But to give you an update on something really important, expansion of the authority. So attached or linked to your electronic agenda, you would have found a resolution from Carbon County petitioning the Big Sky Passenger Rail Authority to join the authority. And so they are chomping at the bit and ready to go. As I mentioned earlier, Lewis and Clark County will be having a public hearing, I believe, next week on the same resolution to petition the rail authority to expand the boundaries of our district. The one thing that I would just point out is that what this requires by state law in terms of notice, once the individual counties petition us, pass their individual resolution, then it falls into our court to publicize and to notice across the entire district. And that means in our case, if we're just talking Lewis and Clark County, that's 13 counties. Lewis and Clark plus Carbon is 14 counties. That comes to about $1,000 of publication costs because we have to publish the entire text of the resolution twice in each of those counties. And as you can see, it's probably not the sort of thing that we want to do piecemeal because we're going to be incurring those costs as the authority. We do have some discretion on our parts as far as when to time the public hearing for the authority to take up these resolutions and these requests. I was originally thinking that presuming that Lewis and Clark County does act affirmatively next week, there will be time to notice and publicize our public hearing in our April meeting for both Carbon and Lewis and Clark counties. However, it would be a shame if immediately after that we learn from Custer County that they want to join us, in which case I don't think we want to be shelling out $1,000 each time a single county trickles in and wants to join. So a suggestion that I would just like to roll out to the authority here would be that we send out one more announcement or request to all of the counties along the corridor who have previously been offered an opportunity to join the authority and who are still sitting on the fence. And maybe there are a few other counties that we would also like to extend that invitation to. I see Diane Magone's hand up here. We'll hear from her in a second. But that we extend one last invitation to see if any other county wants to join. If not, we move forward in April with a public hearing for both Lewis and Clark and Carbon. If another county, such as Custer, who we have heard rumor might be indicating an interest in participating, if they do come back in the affirmative, or any other county does, we might end up having to push out our public hearing to the month of May. But again, this is in the spirit of trying to be as fiscally responsible as we can ourselves with our precious and limited resources, and not have to publicize this every time a single county petitions us. So I will open it up for discussion by the board, and since Diane, you have your hand up patiently, I'll let you jump in.
Okay. I just wanted to know if you have opened up membership to counties that are not on the designated route. Has the board decided on that issue or not? Because I am kind of working on a presentation for Mineral County for the commissioners. but I kind of want to make sure that it's opened up to counties. And I think, Dave, you and I had talked a little bit previously about the fact that it's not really hard and fast where the route is yet, and it could conceivably come through Monroe County.
That is correct. Any county can certainly petition us. I would not object to offering the opportunity to Monroe County, but I will also defer to the rest of the board if you have thoughts on one last invitation to all of the counties who previously been invited, or any others that you think would be likely candidates. And Monroe's an easy one, since there is a rail line that goes through Monroe County, and that they would be well poised for connecting bus service also. Thanks, Diane.
Thank you. Thank you.
You bet. Other comments from the board? Or thoughts on a way to proceed?
I think you're right. We don't want to be spending $1,000 every time a new county comes in. That's going to eat up our funding that we don't have really quick. I did see somebody post in the comments here about whether or not is it really the responsibility of the BSPRA to cover those costs, or is it the participating county? Because I know when Dawson County passed our resolution, it was Dawson County had to publicize that, not the BSPRA. Didn't exist yet formally. So I think that is a good question of, is this a cost that we actually have to bear, or is this or should it be Lewis and Clark County and Carbon County's responsibility to bear those costs, or any other county?
Yeah, it's a two-step process. So each of those counties have already gone through the notice and publication process for their individual authority. So Carbon County went through the process of publicizing and noticing twice in their designated newspaper the resolution that you have attached to your agenda. Lewis and Clark has done the same. This would be then the second step of the process, where we are publicizing and noticing the resolution that we as the authority are adopting to bring them in to the authority. Okay. So I guess the answer is absolutely. If a county, if the petitioning county was so inclined, I would certainly not turn them away from covering those costs. Whether or not we would want to mandate that that these counties help cover the costs for this district-wide, authority-wide publication and notice is a different story. Which would be one reason to maybe have only limited periods of an open season for petitioners to come before us if we are bearing those costs.
Yeah. Yeah, like insurance, have an open enrollment period.
Right. Jerry.
Yeah, I'm wondering if it wouldn't be also a reasonable approach to extend invitation to Cascade, Judith Basin, Wheatland, and Golden Valley. As they have a rail position that I'm just wondering if that is it. I know it's kind of out of left field, and that's why I'm bringing it up, because we've discussed what other counties might be approached or invited.
Thoughts from the board? Any additional thoughts?
Mm-hmm.
And I guess one approach, Jerry, could be, since those counties are ones who have not been engaged at all thus far, maybe it would behoove us to have some more due diligence and conversations with them, because I wouldn't want that to hold up everything else that we're doing. I know that other counties have requested special presentations in the months leading up to the establishment of the authority. So we could extend it. invitation to all of those previous counties who have been extended an invitation, with the exception of maybe throwing Mineral into the mix, since that's an easy add. Well, how about this? How about I'll draft a letter and reach out to all of those counties who I just mentioned. Let us maybe do some additional thinking on and mulling over what other counties a little bit more far-flung might make sense. And then depending on what sort of response I get back, we'll go ahead and schedule or not the public hearing in the month of April for Carbon and hopefully Lewis and Clark counties. Does that sound like a plan? Elena?
Yes, Dave, I think what you just said is a good plan. So I go along with that. Good idea.
Thank you very much. And Jason,
yeah, one last question here, Dave. Yeah. Where I know you got to get going to your Rotary Club. So if we're gonna do that for Carbon and Lewis and Clark, we're gonna need $1,000. Do we have $1,000? Where's that $1,000 going to come from right now?
We do.
Okay.
Yeah, I think if I'm not mistaken, Jerry, we have somewhere in the neighborhood of between $5,000 and $6,000 in our account so far.
Yeah, okay. That is correct. Yeah, we have money to cover it.
All right, good deal.
But let's not spend all those thousands foolishly.
Right.
That is absolutely the case. So Jason, I'm going to pass the baton to you. If maybe all of you would like to, you and Jerry or Bill, who are on the executive committee, if you wanted to say anything about the socioeconomic study, then move on to adopting or authorizing me to sign the letters that we had planned to send to Congress and to Highline counties. I think that's the bulk of what we have left. That shouldn't take too much time. I know that we've exhausted our hour, and I'm thinking maybe we need to schedule an hour and a half in the future for these meetings. But thank you all so much. We really appreciate the many folks who participated in this meeting today, and this is an exciting undertaking. So it's all yours, Jason.
Thank you, Dave, and good luck at your Rotary Club.
Thank you.
Okay. So yeah, our next item under unfinished business is about our socioeconomic study. Our executive committee met last week, I believe it was, yeah. And we had a discussion about trying to find grant funding to fund that socioeconomic study. There were a couple of grant opportunities we had heard of that we thought about pursuing, one being the USDA Rural Development grant. Unfortunately, as some more information got passed between the folks at USDA Rural Dev and the folks there in Missoula County who are trying to help work on this, it became clear that the USDA Rural Development grant was simply not going to really work. They were going to require like a 75% cost match. It just and the deadline to apply for that grant right now is March 31st, and the amount of work that would have to be put in by Missoula County staff to complete that grant application, or Park County staff or anybody's staff to complete that application versus what we could possibly get out of it just did not it just didn't add up. So we made a determination to not try to pursue that. For the time being, we still need to try to find a way to raise funding for the socioeconomic study. Again, we were presented with a kind of a cost estimate of $65,000 to do a real full bore study along the entire corridor. So we still need to find a way to raise that funding. One thing that Dave and the folks in Missoula County are going to try to look at doing is maybe they have some money there that they could possibly put towards a Big Sky Trust Fund grant to just do a study just within Missoula County that could at least give us a snapshot of what it would do for at least one of the counties on the route that we could maybe help, plug that data in later to a larger study. So right now we're still in the process of, Jerry and his finance committee are working on fundraising efforts. So we're going to need to get out there and shake some trees and raise some public funding so that we can build up a bank of potential match funding for some other grant opportunities. There are other opportunities out there, like the Federal Economic Development Administration has a grant program that their representative for Montana, who I spoke to, thought that our project would be very well qualified for their grant. And it's an open cycle grant, so there's no deadlines on it. It's just whenever you have the means to apply for it, you can apply for it. But it does require a 50-50 match. So we need to raise match funding somehow or another, and Jerry and his crew are going to work on that. And we'll just keep plugging away at that till we can get enough match funding together to maybe make a application for that EDA grant, as well as keep our eyes open for anything else that may come available. So that's kind of my spiel on the socioeconomic study. Bill, Jerry, you guys have anything to add to that?
No, that covers it. Thank you.
Yeah.
And the Park County grant team is in touch with Missoula, so they're in the process of looking under rocks for funding opportunities.
Okay, thank you, Bill.
Jason, that would the respective to beating the bushes for for funding opportunities. I've had several conversations, and I just want to advise to the public relations folks is that we need to build a, I guess you could say, a story that we can present before potential donees or donators from the business community. I'd advise this as the business community is going to be our best source for dollars, but smaller, or shall I say, smaller units of government might equally be participating. Municipalities for sure. I know that we're going to make presentations in front of, excuse me, in front of Plains and Thompson Falls here in Sanders County this coming April. I'd just a couple other points of advice. We're coming to the end of fiscal years for communities, units of government, so available cash is kind of narrow, and for the next few weeks, business folks are going to be distracted with tax season, and so what we're looking at, and what I've discussed with some business leaders, is a campaign for solicitations beginning May 1st. And so what we want to do is, of course, build awareness of of the authority from now until then and beyond, but especially from now until then, maybe some kind of concentrated effort. It can be as simple and fluid as op-eds to publications, or in any type of I guess you could say press that we can possibly get until that kickoff of fundraising. And I think it's probably a good idea for us to pre-announce that, yes, we are reaching out to members of the business community, to chambers of commerce, to trade associations, the full gamut in all member counties and beyond, for funds that we can apply to matches, especially from from, in this case, from federal matches, but other possible matches from contributing sources. So I think we probably need to spin up some kind of a PR effort ahead of any kind of asks across the board, and then hope that and rely for a bit on the generosity of our member counties from now until the end of the fiscal year, as well as anybody else who might want to contribute to the cause. It was kind of long, but you can see we need a
thank you, Jerry.
PR.
Yeah. So and thank you for that. I'll bring that up at our next PR committee meeting here, which we're going to have sometime before the end of this month, and we'll talk about, now that we have our website up, and we'll hopefully have some social media sites prepared, and we can start maybe doing a little bit of that legwork for you to start building that up. And yeah, another thing Jerry mentioned, and that I'll certainly be doing here in the next couple of weeks is, I certainly would encourage our board members and even members of the public here to, just to start approaching your municipalities and your municipal and county governments, and even your chambers of commerce, and start just kind of sit down and talk with them, and say, just kind of gently put it out there that we're looking for any funding donations they might be willing to contribute to us to help get us off the ground here. Okay, does anybody else have anything else to say about the socioeconomic study? Diane, I see your hand up. Was that up from earlier, or did you have something else to add?
No, I just had a question, and it kind of follows up to what Jerry was saying. It's not really socioeconomic, but does the authority have kind of a canned presentation put together to take to different organizations, like a half hour, maybe scripted, whatever?
Jerry, I would put that to you.
Not that I'm aware of. I will be putting together some text of my own for presentation to Thompson Falls and Plains as I go before those groups, and also Sanders County Development Corporation. But I haven't put anything together. I'd really lean on Jason and his team for that.
So maybe
I think it's a good idea for have a single script would be a good idea.
Yeah, we do have a draft donor letter that I gave to Jerry. So we do have that.
I'm thinking more of like a 15-20-minute presentation, and maybe we can just talk about that in the Public Relations Communications Committee. Is that appropriate?
Yeah.
I'd further advise Jason. I believe you and Commissioner Strohmeyer have some presentation that was evolved for conversation with the Billings Chamber of Commerce a week or two ago. Maybe that would be a good, good foundation for a broader presentation for general consumption.
And so Dave has that?
I'm not aware who has it, Jason.
Yeah, Dave has it. Though that presentation was more about why it would be good for the county to join the authority, more than here's the authority. We really need your donations to help us get started. So yeah, that'd be a bit of a different presentation, but we can certainly. We can visit about that at our committee meeting for the PR team and talk about that. And of course, we'll also, because it is fundraising, it is finance related, we'll want Jerry and his committee's input on that as well as we try to develop that. But good points, guys. Thank you. And
thank you.
Follow up with that.
Yeah, please include me in an invitation to that meeting.
Okay. Yeah, we will, Jerry. Okay. Well, that would move us forward to new business. So we have a couple of actual motions to make. Before we get to number one, to motion A here, which is to authorize the chair to sign a letter to Congress supporting the Empire Builder. It may still behoove us to send that letter. However, I know I got an email from Senator Tester's office on Saturday telling us that the center had successfully got an amendment included in the COVID-19 package to restore daily service on the Empire Builder. And that I just got an alert on my phone a few seconds ago that the House has now passed the COVID relief package bill, which will obviously be signed by President Biden. So we may be something of a moot point on this letter. I know we had a gentleman from Senator Tester's office on the line. Do you want to speak to that real quick, if you're still there?
Yeah, Zach Ringsack from Senator Tester's office. You're correct. He did get that amendment in the bill for Amtrak. I don't think it would hurt anything for you guys to send that letter just to kind of show you're on the same team, but it'd be up to you.
Okay, thanks, Zach. Yeah, I think it doesn't hurt to, just to kind of show our continued support for the Empire Builder in another fashion. So I think we could go ahead and send that, even though we might look at might look at rewording that a little bit before we send it out, just because the funding has now been reestablished to keep it, get it back on a daily schedule. But in any case, I guess we'll go ahead and entertain a motion, if anybody would like to make it, to authorize Commissioner Strohmeyer to sign the draft letter that we have to Congress supporting the Empire Builder. And Terry, I see your hand up.
Yeah, Vice Chair, I will make the motion to authorize Chair to sign a letter to Congress supporting the Empire Builder with appropriate changes following the passage of the COVID-19 bill.
Okay, thank you, Terry.
This is Bill. I will second.
All right, thank you, Bill. Okay, everybody understand the motion we have is to authorize Chairman Strohmeyer to sign the letter after making some slight revisions to reflect the fact that the daily service on the Empire Builder has been restored as of today. All right, go ahead and unmute yourselves, and all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right. Thank you guys for that. And also, Zach, please again pass along our gratitude to Senator Tester for getting that in the COVID relief bill. I know from that's a great deal to get that in there and get that service restored to daily service. It's a very important service for Montana to have, and we want to reiterate to everybody on the line here that while we're seeking to restore passenger rail service through southern Montana, we do not come at it with the intention or desire to take anything away from the Empire Builder, and we are going to continue to offer our strong support to that route. Okay, next on the agenda is a motion to authorize Chairman Strohmeyer to sign a letter to the Highline counties through which the Empire Builder runs, introducing the Big Sky Passenger Rail Authority to them. And I hope everybody's had a chance to review that letter real quick. And if you have, I will go ahead and entertain if anybody would like to make a motion on that.
This is Bill. So moved.
Thank you, Bill. Do we have a second?
Terry seconds.
Thank you, Terry. All right. Any further discussion? Okay, everybody, board members, please unmute yourselves. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, thank you guys. Well, I would hope that the folks on the Highline by now have heard plenty about the Big Sky Passenger Rail Authority, but we'll get that formal letter out to them just to formally introduce ourselves and again make sure that they know that we're fully behind them as well as behind passenger rail in southern Montana. Again, we're not seeking to take anything away from the Empire Builder. It's a very important service for our state, and we want to see it continue. And we're very grateful to see today that, again, that daily service on the Empire Builder is going to be restored. That is a big win for the state of Montana getting that done. All right, that will bring us out of new business and down to general comments from board members. Is there any board member who has any comment on anything that we've already discussed or anything not on the agenda?
Yeah, Jason, Jerry here. I think I'd like to bring a comment that I did make in executive committee to the attention of the full board, that just a strong encouragement to reach out by all board members to take the initiative to contact our members of Congress, our full delegation, to Senator Tester, Senator Daines, and Representative Rosendale, to apprise them of each member county's enthusiasm for this effort. and invite them to share our enthusiasm as much as possible. We need the full participation of all of our congressional delegation going forward to make this happen. And the more they talk it up, the better competitive footprint we will have against other authorities and bodies that are seeking federal grants. So reach out as frequently as possible to staff, directly to those to those members of the congressional delegation, and to encourage them. I mean, they're very busy people. And so it takes you gotta squeak that wheel and ring that bell a lot. That's all the comment I got. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you, Jerry. Anybody else? Any other board members? Okay, hearing none. Are there any unscheduled matters that anybody would like to bring before the board? Any unscheduled matters not on the agenda that anybody else would like to see the board address? Ms. Brownlow.
Hi, thank you. So this is Dory with Missoula County, and I just wanted to bring this up. Violet and I were emailing during the end of the meeting, and just so the board isn't surprised, later on the budget for the publication, she doesn't have each county's legal ad costs, but it will probably be, it could be $1,500 to $2,000 per time. So it's really important what David's doing. So we just don't want it to look like we had that wrong, and we just don't know right now what that cost will be. Thank you.
Thank you, Dory, for clarifying that. Mr. Jingling, I see you have your hand up. Is something you'd like to say?
Okay, question for you. I live in Washington State, of course, but, and this is a Montana project, but the tracks go through North Dakota, Idaho, and of course, Washington. Old North Coast High, I guess is what you're thinking of restoring. Is there any place for out-of-state counties to be involved in this?
Well, that's something that we will certainly look to build to, not with the Big Sky Passenger Rail Authority. We are operating under Montana state law, and it's through Montana state law that gives Montana counties the ability to form this. Looking to the future, Mr. Jingling, however, you're absolutely right in that the restoration of this service would not just impact Montana, it would impact North Dakota, Idaho, and Washington State as well. In the future, we're looking towards, we do hope to one day build towards the Big Sky Passenger Rail Authority joining a larger multi-state rail authority like the Southern Rail Commission at some point in the future. Right now, it's kind of a waiting game to see if, number one, if Congress is going to authorize additional multi-state rail authorities like that. Right now, the Southern Rail Commission down in Louisiana, Alabama, Mississippi is the only congressionally authorized multi-state rail commission in existence. But there does seem to be some impetus building on Capitol Hill for that to happen. And if it does happen, then yes, if Congress ultimately does authorize additional multi-state rail authorities to come into existence, then at that point, our authority, and even before that happens, we will start, and we've had people from North Dakota, Washington, join in our committee meetings and board meetings, and even be part of our Passenger Rail Summit back in September. So yes, eventually we do hope to get to that point where we are part of a multi-state rail organization, but we're not there yet. And there's some dominoes need to fall before that can happen.
Okay, thanks very much.
Yep. And Elena, I see you've got your hand up.
Jason, I'm sorry, I got a telephone call, and the person that was talking about the publications, who just mentioned something about the county publications of the ads or whatever.
Oh yeah, yeah, Dory from Missoula County. Yeah, she just mentioned that they don't really have a really firm bead on what those publication costs are going to be yet, and it may be more like $1,500 to $2,000 per time to get them published across the authority corridor. So she just wanted to clarify that that it may not necessarily be just $1,000. It could be more.
So the publications that have been in the local papers, like the ones they had introducing the authority in the beginning of it, is that what that bill she doesn't have
No,
yet, or?
No, she's referring to if new counties join, if new counties pass a resolution to join the authority. Now, when they do that, they have to do a public notice within their own county. But then now that the rail authority, from what Dave was talking about, now that the rail authority is established and is in operation, now when a county petitions to join us, then now the authority has to publish that notice across our area. So from state line North Dakota to state line Idaho, throughout all the papers within the area of the authority, announcing that the authority is going to have a public hearing about those counties joining the authority. So yeah, this is kind of an extra, now the authority, the way I understand it, now the authority is functioning and operative. That is now an extra step that we do now have to do to satisfy Montana law.
Okay, thank you.
Uh-huh. Okay, did anybody else have anything to add? Okay, hearing none. Oh,
sorry,
Jerry,
Jason. Just I was just reading through some of the comments in the chat, and maybe a quick peruse before we close to make certain that we've caught everybody's questions or recognized everybody. I think there's a representative from Senator Daines' office here, so I just want to get the opportunity for us to peruse that. I just thought it might be a good idea before we close.
Yeah. Okay, Jerry. Okay. Yeah. I see a lot of comments here about, people are, let's see any particular questions that need to be answered. We already talked about petitioning counties covering cost of notification. Other people made comments about the logos, which we've already gotten taken care of. We do have Senator Daines, John Durnall with Senator Daines' office did join us. John, if you're still on the line, was there anything we did get a chance real quick to hear from Senator Tester and Senator Rosendale's folks. Was there anything you'd like to add?
I don't have any updates for you at this time.
Okay, thank you. And I'll also give one last opportunity for Zach, and I do apologize to forget the gentleman's name from Representative Rosendale's office. If either of you wanted to make any comment before we step away here.
Hi, gentlemen. Kate Overstreet. No worries there. I just don't have anything to update with you guys on. Thanks for having me, though.
Okay. Thank you, Kate. All right. So next steps, we have our next meeting scheduled for April 14th for the full board. Suppose that sounds good to everybody. And I guess before we close out here, Dave had on their agenda, is there anything that we haven't talked about today for that April 14th meeting that you'd like to have added to the agenda for that meeting? And if you can't think of it now, I'm sure Dave will take an email. Anything comes to mind between now and our next meeting. All right, well, we're an hour and a half in, guys, and I have a history class starting here in about 45 minutes, and I still have to get lunch from somewhere, so I'm about ready to close it out. Is there anything else anybody has to add before we step away today?
I make a motion, we adjourn.
All right, thank you, Jerry. Somebody want to second that motion?
I'll second.
Thank you, Bill. We have a motion to adjourn in a second. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. All right. Thank you, everybody, for another good board meeting of the Big Sky Passenger Rail Authority. And we'll see some of you here. We'll see in a couple of days with our executive committee meeting, and the rest of you will see again in a month.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you, guys.